The Speckled Band. When I first worked with Sherlock Holmes, we both lived in his house on Baker Street. Holmes usually slept until late, but one morning he woke me up at 7:15. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Is there a fire?" "No," Holmes replied. "A young lady is waiting in the sitting room. She is very worried. I think she's got something interesting to say. Do you want to hear it?" "Of course," I said. I quickly got dressed. Then I went to the sitting room with Holmes. The lady stood up when we entered. She wore black clothes. She had a black veil over her face. "Good morning, madam," said Holmes. "My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my friend and colleague, Dr. John Watson. You are trembling. Are you cold? I can ask my servant, Mrs. Hudson, to light the fire." "I am not cold," said the woman quietly. "Then why are you trembling?" asked Holmes. "I am frightened," she said. "I am terrified." The woman lifted her veil. We saw the look of fear on her face. She was about 30 years old. "Don't be frightened," said Holmes calmly. "I'm sure we can help you." He looked at her. "I see you traveled by train this morning," he said. "How do you know?" asked the woman, surprised. "You have half of a return train ticket in your left hand. I also know that you went to the train station in a cart. It was a difficult journey." The woman stared at Holmes. She was very surprised. Holmes smiled. "It is easy to see, madam," he said. "There is mud on the left arm of your jacket. The marks are wet. Only a cart splashes mud like that." "You are right," she said. "Oh, sir, I cannot return to my house. I will go mad. You must help me, please. I cannot pay you, Mr. Holmes. I'm sorry, but in 2 months I am going to get married. Then I will have money." "I'm happy to help you, madam," said Holmes. "You do not need to pay me now. Please tell me everything that you can about this case." "I am in danger," said the woman. "My name is Helen Stoner. I live with my stepfather, Dr. Winsby Roylott." "I know the name," said Holmes. "He is the last member of the Roylott family." The Roylotts were very rich. They owned land in many parts of England, but the men of the family lost all the money. Then they sold the land to pay their debts. My stepfather studied medicine. Then he went to India to work as a doctor. There he married my mother, Mrs. Stoner. She was young and she was a widow. She had twins, my sister Julia and me. My mother was very rich. She gave all her money to Dr. Roylott on one condition. The money must go to Julia and me when we get married. While we lived in India, there were several robbers in our house. My stepfather was very angry. He said that one of the servants was a robber. He killed the servant. He went to prison for many years. When his prison sentence finished, we all returned to England. My stepfather was an angry and disillusioned man. Soon after our return, my mother died in a train accident. Our stepfather took us to live in an old house at Stonemoran in Surrey. It belongs to his family. Now my stepfather rarely goes out of the house. He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't talk to people. My sister Julia and I were terribly unhappy at Stonemoran. We were very lonely. We have only got one older relation, an aunt who lives in Harrow near London. We sometimes went to visit her. One day, Julia met a man in Harrow. They fell in love and decided to get married. My stepfather agreed to the marriage, and my sister was very happy, but she died 2 weeks before the wedding. Your sister is dead, said Holmes. Yes, she died 2 years ago. Sherlock Holmes sat down. He closed his eyes. Then he opened them again and looked at Miss Stoner. Please tell me exactly what happened. The night my sister died, Dr. Roylott went to his room early. Julia and I talked about her wedding plans in my room. Then she got up to go to her room, which was between my room and my stepfather's. She stopped at the door and looked at me. Tell me, Helen, she said, did you hear someone whistle last night? No, why? Every night at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear a whistle. I think it comes from the garden. Perhaps it is the gardener, I said. She smiled. It probably isn't important, she said. She went to her room. A few moments later, I heard her lock the door. Did you always lock your doors at night? Asked Holmes. Yes, always, replied Miss Stoner. Why? Because of the tiger and the monkey. My stepfather loves Indian animals. They live in the gardens at Stormmoran. We were frightened of the animals. Of course, please continue. I did not sleep that night. As you know, twins are very close. I knew that my sister was very nervous. Suddenly, I heard a scream. It was my sister. I ran into the passage. Then I heard a whistle, and a few moments later, there was a bang. It was something metal. I ran to Julia's room. She opened the door. Her face was white with terror. I put my arms around her. She fell to the ground in terrible pain. She shouted in terror, Helen, it was the band, the Speckled Band. She pointed towards Dr. Roylott's room. I ran to call my stepfather. When he came, my sister was unconscious. He sent a servant to the village for a doctor, but it was too late. My sister died. Was your sister dressed at the time? Holmes asked. No, she was in her nightgown, and she saw something when she saw it. That is important. What was the cause of that? The doctor did not find any cause. Was she poisoned? Asked Holmes. He didn't find any poison. My sister was alone in the room. Her door and windows were locked. The doctor did not find any marks on her. Was there anyone near the house when she died? The gardener? Yes, the gardener was there. He lives in a house in the gardens. Your sister was frightened of a Speckled Band. Do you know what that is? I've got no idea. Holmes shook his head. This is a mystery, he said. Please continue. A month ago, a dear friend asked me to marry him. His name is Percy Armitage. My stepfather agreed to the marriage. 2 days ago, my stepfather asked the builders to do some repair work at the house. They started to work in my bedroom. Now I must sleep in the same room and in the same bed where my sister died. Last night, I heard a whistle. It was the same whistle I heard on the night Julia died. I lit the lamp, but there was nothing in the room. I did not sleep all night. This morning, I came here to see you. There is something else you didn't mention, said Holmes. Is your stepfather cruel to you? He asked. He is a strong man, she replied, and he is often violent. The people in the village are frightened of him. Holmes looked into fire. Can we look at the house today? He asked. Yes, my stepfather is in London today. He will arrive home late this evening. Excellent. Do you want to come, Watson? Of course, I replied. We will come to Stormmoran this afternoon. I will be happy to see you again, Miss Stoner said. She put her veil over her face and left the room. A few minutes later, the door suddenly opened. An enormous man entered the room. He was very tall. He had a big face and small, ugly eyes. "Who is Holmes?" he asked. "I am, sir," said my friend quietly. "I am Dr. Wensby Roylott of Stormoran. Please sit down," said Holmes. "I will not sit down," Dr. Roylott shouted angrily. "My stepdaughter was here. I followed her. What did she say to you?" Holmes smiled calmly. "Please go, sir, and close the door behind you," he said. "I will go when I want to go," shouted the angry visitor. "Do not come near my stepdaughter or Stormoran. I am a dangerous man when I am angry." He picked up the poker from next to the fire and brought it with his enormous hands. Then he threw the poker into the fire and left the room. Holmes laughed. "What a friendly man," he said. "Dr. Roylott is not happy that his stepdaughter is going to get married. When she marries, he must give her mother's money to her. He will not have very much money for himself. He did not want his oldest daughter, Julia, to marry either. We must go for a carriage and drive to the train station. Please put your pistol in your pocket, Watson. Perhaps we will need it." We took a train to Leatherhead and then drove in a car to Stormoran. The countryside was lovely and it was a perfect day. Finally, we saw the high roof of an enormous red house. There were trees around it. "Is that Stormoran?" Holmes asked the driver. "Yes, sir," the driver replied. "That is Dr. Roylott's house." He stopped outside the gardens. Miss Stoner came to meet us. "I am very happy to see you again," she said. Holmes immediately told Miss Stoner about our meeting with Dr. Roylott. "Please take us quickly to the part of the house where you live," said Holmes. "We have got a lot to do before your stepfather returns." When we arrived at the house, we saw that many of the windows were broken. However, the part of the house where the family lived was in better condition. Holmes examined the windows from outside. "Which window is your room?" he asked Miss Stoner. "That's one." She pointed up to the window on the left. Holmes continued. "So the middle one was your sister's, and the one on the right is Dr. Roylott's." "Yes," said Miss Stoner, "but now I am sleeping in the middle one." "Your room does not need repairs," said Holmes. "I know, but I must sleep in my sister's room because the workers are in my room." "Come on," said Holmes. "We must look for clues inside the house." We went inside. Holmes went upstairs and walked into the middle room. He sat down in a chair and looked at the room carefully. He pointed to a long black cord about the bed. "Did your sister use the bell?" he asked. "No, never. It doesn't ring," said Helen. Holmes pulled the cord. The bell did not ring. "A bell that doesn't ring," he said. "Now, what is this cord here?" The cord went up to a small ventilator. "The ventilator goes to Dr. Roylott's room," he said. "That is very strange. Most ventilators go to the outside." We followed Holmes into Dr. Roylott's room. He examined everything with interest. He pointed to a metal safe. "What's in here?" he asked. "I don't know. My stepfather doesn't open it in front of me." There was a small plate of milk on top of the safe. "Do you have a cat?" asked Holmes. "No, perhaps the milk is for the tiger," said Helen. "A tiger needs more than a small plate of milk," Holmes said. His face was very serious. "Miss Stoner, you must do exactly what I say." "Of course. Tell me what to do." "There is a hotel on the other side of the street. Watson and I can see the house from the hotel. When Dr. Roylott returns, go to your sister's room. When he goes to bed, put the lamp next to the window. When we see the light, we will come to the house, then go to your own room. Yes, of course, but what will you do? We will go to the middle room. We will investigate the whistle that you heard. Sherlock Holmes and I went to the hotel on the other side of the street. We had a good view of the house from our window. Later, Dr. Roylott arrived home. We saw the light of a lamp in the sitting room. We sat in the dark in our hotel room. I will go to the house alone tonight, said Holmes. It is very dangerous. But I want to come. I did not see anything dangerous in those rooms, I said. Did you see the ventilator and the record? Holmes asked. Yes, of course, I replied. The record touches the bed, said Holmes, and the woman who slept in that bed died. And the safe in Dr. Roylott's room is made of metal. Helen Stoner heard a bang of something metal before her sister died. There was also a small plate of milk on the safe. Why does Dr. Roylott need a plate of milk? I do not know, I said, but I am worried we must protect Miss Stoner. At about 9 o'clock, the light in the sitting room went out. The house was completely dark. We waited. Then we saw a bright light in the middle bedroom. Holmes jumped up. That is our signal. We must go now. Bring your pistol. There was no moon and it was very dark outside. We went into a garden and watched through the trees. Holmes picked up a long stick. Suddenly, a horrible creature jumped out of a tree and ran towards the house. My God, I whispered. Did you see that? For a moment, Holmes was as nervous as I was. Then he laughed. That was the monkey, he whispered. I don't want to meet the tiger, I said. When we were inside the house, I felt safer. We went upstairs to the middle bedroom. We must sit in the dark, whispered Holmes. Dr. Roylott can see light from the room through the ventilator. I nodded. I don't. And don't go to sleep, he said. I will sit on the bed. You sit in the chair. I put my pistol on the corner of the table. Holmes put his stick on the bed next to him. He put a box of matches and a candle next to the stick. We waited nervously for a long time. The room was completely dark. Suddenly, we saw light from Dr. Roylott's room through the ventilator. A few minutes later, we heard a whistle. Holmes jumped up from the bed and lit a match. Then he hit the bell cord many times with his stick. Did you see it, Watson? He shouted. Did you see it? She what? I asked. I lit the lamp quickly. I looked at Holmes. His face was completely white. He looked up at the ventilator. Then, suddenly, we heard a horrible scream of pain and fear. Then it stopped. There was silence. It is all over, said Holmes. Let's go to Dr. Roylott's room. Holmes picked up the lamp. He had the stick in his other hand. I followed him into the passage. He knocked on Dr. Roylott's door. There was no reply. Holmes opened the door and went into a room. The door of the safe was open. Dr. Roylott was on a chair next to the safe. His eyes were open and he was very still. Around his head there was a yellow band with brown speckles. The band! The speckled band! Whispered Holmes. I moved forward. Suddenly, the strange band started to move. It was a snake. It is a swamp adder, said Holmes, the most poisonous snake in India. Dr. Roylott died 10 seconds after the snake bit him. Julia Stoner died the same way. Holmes picked up the snake with the long stick and put it into a safe. Then he closed the door. The next day, Holmes and I left the Stoner run. Mrs. Stoner did not want to stay at the house. She went to her aunt's house in Harrow. On our way home, Holmes explained everything to me. I saw the ventilator and were caught touching the bed, he said. I immediately thought of a snake. A snake can go through a small ventilator. It can also move down a cord and it can kill a person in seconds. Dr. Roylott brought the snake from India. He knew that a doctor cannot discover a snake's poison. Dr. Roylott trained the snake to return to him when it heard him whistle. The make on the safe was a reward for the snake. And what about the band of metal that Helen Stoner heard? I asked. That was the metal door of the safe, said Holmes. Dr. Roylott closed it after he put the snake in the safe again. How did you know that the snake was in the room with us? I asked. I heard the snake hiss when it came through the ventilator. When it came down the cord, I hit it with a stick. And so it went back through the ventilator, I said. Yes, Holmes replied. It returned to Dr. Roylott. Of course, the snake was furious after I hit it. It bit the first person it saw, Dr. Roylott, its owner. In this way, I am responsible for Dr. Roylott's death, but I can't say I am very sorry.